So Pat,
Yeah.
I know you're part of the WBC now,
Yep.
and WBC had a long-term ranking system for fighters, which I think is great, especially for me because then I know who's next up in line that I need to fight. What are the future plans for the rankings, and is there gonna be a possibility where we can have like a universal ranking system, so it's not just associated by the belts or by the organization, but just something that the whole world can view at.
That's a great question, OT. A lot of people have been asking me the same question. These are some of the things that throughout the years have really bothered me, because especially in America, especially in the United States, people are just creating titles left and right, and there's no rhyme or reason. It's just oftentimes used as a promotional gimmick for promoters to say, okay, this is for a title fight, even though somebody is 1-3 versus somebody that's 3-1. And those are essentially meaningless. Those C-class belts and even the B-class belts. And what we want to do, regardless of what level belt, we want to make sure that people actually earn it. And the only way that they truly can earn it, rather than saying, okay, here is a national title, and it is two guys from the same state or maybe even the same city, right? There has to be some structure and methodology. There has to be an algorithm for us to be able to track and to be able to look at performances, whether that be long-term performances, whether that be short-term performances, to be able to say, okay, this person is now qualified to fight for that particular title. And that really is our main goal with WBC Muay Thai USA, is to have that legitimacy. The difficult part right now is the fact that you have amateur and you have pro, and a lot of countries, a lot of fighters turn pro automatically. Like here, for example, everyone's already pro. There's no amateur scene. Although Paco's doing some stuff out here in Bangkok, and I know that Matt Lucas has a podcast on that. But in the United States, we just have, because of commissions, because of lack of funding, lack of sponsorships, everybody starts out on that amateur scene, and they pretty much stay at that amateur scene because there's not much of a pro scene. Or you have the reverse. A lot of people turn pro prematurely. Maybe after 3 fights, they're pro. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to the California State Athletic Commission last week. I was with Jeff Corres, the CEO of Triumphant Promotions, and one of the things that he was talking about was, hey, look, anybody for an MMA can turn pro, on day one. And so what we want to do is create a class system similar to Europe. You got your C class, you got your N class, which is novice. You got your B class, and you got your A class based on the number of fights. The difficulty, of course, would be having a pro-am. So a lot of state commissions, regardless, I think across the United States, won't allow that to happen, with the exception of certain states. Certain states that don't require a sanctioning body, and they're few and far between. But to go back to answer your question, it's really important for us to establish what these rankings are, so that people know who to fight next. And even if it's not that next person, I think some of the challenges, the difficulty might be within that ranking system, and that's what I love about WBC Muay Thai here in Bangkok, is that they have a ranking committee that gets together on a quarterly basis to update everyone's rank, and so that they know who is climbing those charts and who is moving down on those charts. Mm-hmm. And so one of the challenges that we have is trying to track that. So we've got some ways that I'm not going to disclose now, but we do have ways that we're going to be able to track these fighters. And instead of saying, okay, here's number 1, number 2, number 3 right now, we're going to say, here are the top 3, and then these top 3, no particular order, these 2 are going to fight, and then the winner of that fights this person, and they have to defend it. And it's absolutely essential, because if you don't defend the belt, you're not really a champion. And the way that we're going to do it with the WBC is, you actually are not going to take home that belt until you defend it. So in that way, it makes it much more valuable. But to answer your question regarding a unified ranking. I'd love to. I'd like to think that I'm still good friends with Michael Corley with the USMF, and although he's WMC, I think that the two of us can work together. With both of our influences and both of us being the head of or directing these two sanctioning bodies, we can collaborate together to really, because our both of our goals ultimately are the same. We want growth. We want legitimacy for our sport, and the only way that we're going to get more sponsors and is through that legitimacy. And so, because now people know what they're looking at, and they know now who are the top level fighters, rather than saying, okay, he's a world champion, he's a world champion, he's a world champion, he's a world champion, and he's a world champion, and she's a world champion, right? So that's essentially what we're trying to do.
I'm happy to hear that, because all that is going to validate the actual titles, and it's going to make the fighters feel like actual champions of that title, because I know I have a title that is meaningless to me, and sometimes a lot of these shows make these titles and they have no meaning behind it. So I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, it's great. We're excited.
Please like, comment, subscribe, and share.